So welcome everybody. Thank you for taking some time today from your busy Saturday schedules. Really appreciate it, but we did have some wonderful news we wanted to share with you, and love doing it via this platform because it's lovely and interactive. And so let's go ahead and bring up this slide, which is basically to let you know that we have an exciting update for you all that we're very, very excited to share with you. And I actually just found out that Dr. Jamartin Sahiti with Boss Foundation has joined, so he'll be chatting with us a little bit later. That was an unexpected addition, so he just has a few words he'll be adding. So we have an exciting update, but first a big welcome to all our Boss UK and Boss Australia supporters. The Boss Australia supporters will be seeing this tomorrow recorded because of obviously the time difference, but this is a joint event between Boss Foundation, Boss Australia and Boss UK. Because of the time that it is currently in Australia, Tony, the head of Boss Australia, can't be with us for this afternoon's event. And as always, he is missed, but very glad to be able to host this on both of our behalfs because they're both fantastic organizations. The entire Boss network is an incredible network of organizations working to save the orangutan, to save the rainforest, and reverse the terrible situation that we've seen over the last few decades with orangutan decline and rainforest decline. So, so as a reminder, we also have, in addition to Boss Australia and Boss UK, we have Boss Switzerland, we have Boss Germany, we have Orangutan Outreach in the US, and we have Save the Orangutan, which is in Denmark and Sweden and the UK as well. So all of these organizations come together, and doesn't matter where you support, the money is all getting to Boss Foundation to right down the ground to help the orangutans and the rainforest in need. So, but before we get started, a couple housekeeping items that I have to get out of the way. One is that feel free to ask questions at any time, but while we're doing the presentation, the format to do that is with the Q&A feature, which you will see in your Zoom interface. It just says Q&A. So if you ask a question there, we have wonderful supporters and staff on the back end that are helping us answer those questions for you. We hope to get everyone's questions answered, but that's the best way to get those answered. We are going to try to do a live Q&A at the end of this, so that way you can ask your questions live. And so we will hopefully get to that, but that will be limited. So we unfortunately won't be able to get a lot of questions answered there. So the best option for you throughout the whole session is to do the Q&A feature. But again, at the end, if you want to stay back, and then we'll have a raise hand feature, and then you can raise your hand and we will you can ask those questions live of us, or you can put it in the Q&A feature and say this is for the live session at the end, if you prefer not to say that, to ask your questions live. So that is an option for you. Yeah, so that's the option for that, and then we're going to give that a try. So very, very excited to have you all here. We're going to be sharing a link to this video as soon as we can get it downloaded and uploaded. So for anyone that isn't able to attend today's event, there will still be an opportunity to see this. And as of right now, this information is actually live on our website. So you can also, if you miss anything, we'll be putting more elements up onto that page, but this information is now going to be live because it is now public knowledge. So really, but what this is that we do consider every single one of you as part of our team and part of our family at Boss. And so that's why we want to continue to do many, many events like this, to get this information directly to you, so that way you can feel like you are part of this amazing network of organizations and people working to save the orangutan, because you truly are. Everyone that supports this orangutan, this organization, and supports orangutans the way that you do is helping us do exactly what we need to do, and that's to save the orangutan. So, and then lastly, in the videos, there are subtitles, and from experience, those sometimes can be hard depending on the device that you're on to read. So I'm actually going to narrate those as it goes to hopefully make it easier for people to be able to see that. But again, all of these videos will be on our website, so that way you can watch them at a later time when you have an opportunity. So without further ado, let's get this update started. So I'm sure many of you have heard of Orangutan Jungle School. I'm sure the majority of you have. It was a series that we had that aired here in the UK and now is airing internationally, which is wonderful across the world. And it's a series that follows our work in Indonesia, only the Boss Foundation's work at our 2 rescue centers, one in Samboja Lestari in East Kalimantan, and then for our Nira Menteng facility in Central Kalimantan. And through this series, we followed the journeys of many, many orangutans, and they became instant stars. But of course, for us, every orangutan that's at our care center is a star. We have over 400 in our care at the moment. We obviously want to get as many of those back to the wild as possible, which those of you who have joined us on prior webinars will know that that's been something that we've covered, is our release back to the wild. So we're very excited about that. But we did have an update on 3 OJS stars and that's what the topic of today's webinar is about. For those that had hoped maybe that this was an update on Orangutan Jungle School coming back to the back to the big screen. Unfortunately, this update isn't about that, but as Judith Curran, who works on that, if you came to our International Orangutan Day event last year, she did allude to the fact that there hopefully will be something in the future. So so keep on the lookout for that, and we do hope that once that is that hopefully that does become a reality, and if so, then we'll be updating you as soon as possible. But today is about 3 adorable orangutans that if you watch the series, you will know well. If you haven't watched the series, you can always watch it on Channel 4 here in the UK. On More 4, you can watch it and catch up. But we have a quick, short little video just to remind you of these 3. And this is about Chinta, Valentino, and Jumbo. So enjoy this video, and I'll get this playing right now. Put that video together, and it's a little bit of a montage of them through the ages, because of course they come to us as little tiny baby orphans. Sadly, we never wish we had to make a video of them, because that meant that they got to stay with their mothers, and they wouldn't have lost their mothers, and they would have been raised in the wild as they should have been, and never needed rescue. But alas, they did need rescue, and we stepped in to do so, and we've watched them grow up over the years. These 3 amazing, incredible orangutans. So the first one, Chinta, actually she was rescued all the way back on Valentine's Day, February 14th in 2013, from a village, which is about a 4-hour journey from our rescue center in Nira Menteng. So our staff heard about Chinta and rushed over and was able to rescue her. She was motherless, shivering, and screaming when she was found. So and interestingly enough, the former president of Indonesia was visiting Nira Menteng a few days after Chinta's arrival, and he was the one that actually named her Chinta, which means love in Indonesian, which I think is a perfect name for our sweet Chinta. So this is her now. She's, as I mentioned, she's at our Nira Menteng facility. She was only about 3 to 5 months old when she arrived, and she's currently 9 years old. So that's Chinta. And then what we thought would be fun is just to do a little fun video, because we have so many videos of each one of these, and of course we could make this a 3-hour webinar with just showing videos, but we thought we created just a short little clip of just as a reminder of each one of these orangutans. So we'll play Chinta's video now. We can learn so much from orangutans, including how to wash our hands, which is something through this horrible global pandemic. We've all had heard lots of lessons on how we need to be washing our hands better. So Chinta gave us a lovely example of washing and drying your hands. So such a sweetheart. The second is the story of Jumbo, and Jumbo was actually rescued 2 days after Chinta. The same village that that Chinta came from. About 2 days later, a truck showed up at our rescue center near Menteng with Jumbo, and from the same area. And sadly, Jumbo's mother was scared away by a man that was out hunting, and his hunting dogs chased the mother off. And so that was the first mistake, is that happened. And then the second mistake was that the hunter took Jumbo after he was screaming back and kept him for probably around a month. And that meant there was no chance for Jumbo to be reunited with the mother, because she probably would have come back. But again, Jumbo was gone. So there was no opportunity for us, unfortunately, to reunite the two of them. So Jumbo, again, had to enter into our rescue center and go through, sadly, a life without his mother, but hopefully can get back to a life in the wild through our rehabilitation and release program. So here's a little picture of Jumbo now, all grown up. It's so hard to see them grow up, but it's exactly what you want. You want them to turn into wonderful male orangutans and female orangutans and get them back into the wild. So again, arrived 2 days after Chinta, about a year old. Currently, Jumbo's about 9 years old, and we'll be telling you a little bit more about Jumbo here in a second. But here's a video of Jumbo a little bit younger than he is now, back from Orangutan Jungle School. Each one is such a character. Jumbo is such a sweetheart. And lastly, we have our incredibly sweet Valentino, who actually arrived on Valentine's Day 2 years after Chinta and Jumbo. Valentino's story, again, very sad, but was rescued from a rubber plantation. A man that does rubber plantation in central Kalimantan found Valentino, but he was in very, very poor condition, and he only weighed about 2.2 kilograms, way under what he should. He had wounds all over his body, some dry, some fresh, and in a terrible irritated skin condition. So supposedly he'd only been with the family for about 3 weeks, but based on everything we saw, it seemed like he'd been with them much longer. So again, Valentino, we don't know everything about his backstory, but it's obviously not a happy one, until he arrived at our rescue center, and then his journey changed to one of hope. And for the last 7 years now, or 6 years, he's been going through our rehabilitation program. So he arrived about 5 to 6 months old. He's now currently 7 years old and has done very well in his studies. So let's watch Valentino being Valentino. So enjoy the video.
Up and down. Up and down. Up and down. And down. And down. Up and down. Up and down. Up and down. And down. And down.
Oh, so cute. Well, I think Valentino reminds us all that as we're coming out of lockdowns, we need to be very active, and so get out and do our exercises. But in all seriousness, I mean, this is as cute as these videos are and as cute as these orangutans are, this is not what we ever want. We never want to rescue an orangutan, because we only do so because they are in need. Nature should be able to provide, and they should be with their mother until they're about 7 or 8 years old. But when we are forced to step in and rescue these incredible animals to ensure that their survival, we do so, and we've done that countless times. So just as a reminder of our process, that we hope for every orangutan that arrives in our center is to go first be rescued, bring them in, and then they go through a very extensive medical examination. They go through quarantine to protect our other orangutans. We assess their skill sets. How much did they learn from their mother? How much, what kind of a gap have they had? And then a very strict curriculum is put together for them, so that way they can gain those skills back that they lost from their mother, that they would have learned from their mother. So they go through our rehabilitation program, and that's what Orangutan Jungle School focuses on in that rehabilitation process. And then it's all leading up to that wonderful day that we can reintroduce them back to the wild as if they would have had they finally stepped away from their mother's care and become an independent orangutan. So that's the important piece for us. So we're doing our best to fill that horrible gap that is necessary when an orangutan has lost their mother. But what today's update is about is actually is a little bit of a step right in between, and this is what we call pre-release. So through the rehabilitation process, we, as they're younger, we can do certain skills with them, but then at some point we need to start transitioning them in preparation for reintroduction to the wild. And to test their skills, we don't want to go straight from the classroom to the wild. We need to make sure that they can perform all of these skills in a wild setting. So we do this in a multitude of ways. First, we'll put them in socialization complexes to start getting them less dependent on humans and more used to being just around themselves. And then when we're ready, we can move them to what we call pre-release islands. And these islands are an incredible tool for us to be able to evaluate these orangutans in a natural wild setting while being able to stay back and also step in as necessary to make sure that they're doing well. So we have these incredible pre-release islands, and that's the kind of next step. I like to say if forest school is kind of like your younger years of school, pre-release is kind of like a university years where mom and dad are still watching you. If you need to step in, we will, but for you give them the independence that they need to be able to start becoming an independent wild orangutan. So that's what we're discussing today. And for these three, we're very excited to say that they have been moved to a pre-release island, which is their massive next step. They've shown all the skills necessary to be reintroduced to the wild. So now it's just a moment. It's just now the time for them to hone those skills, to show us that they really do know what we know that they do know. Live on these pre-release islands for a while, and then finally, when the day comes, we can give the wonderful update that these guys are going to get to go back to the wild. But they weren't on their own. We released them with 5 others. So there's 8 orangutans in total that all went onto our massive new pre-release island, which I'll talk about in a second. So every single one of these orangutan are very deserving of a chance back in the wild and have all gone through the rehabilitation process, have been evaluated very closely by our teams to ensure that each one of them have the skills. Now, as it can happen, and when they can get to the pre-release islands, if it doesn't go well, then our staff can always step in and assist. And that's what this time is for them to be able to have this wild experience and forage for food on their own and do everything that they would need to in the wild, but under the watchful eye of our incredible teams at our Salat Island. And that is where they've been moved to, is our massive, what we call Salat Island, which is absolutely massive. In total, Salat Island is about 3,400 hectares. And so right now they've been moved on to a very, very large, we have about 655 hectares of orangutan islands, pre-release islands on there, which is about 1,600 acres, which is very, very big for them. They can brachiate, they can nest, they can do all the things that they should do in the wild. They can forage for food on this, again, under the watchful eye of our staff. And this massive island that we have can support up to about 200 orangutans in this process. So it's very, very good for us to be able to have a massive facility like this, to be able to test as many orangutans as possible to get them back onto the wild. So this, the island they've been moved to is called Batak Beser. I know I have Jamartin here and I probably just butchered that name, but that's the best I can do. So, and it's about 496 hectares. So they've got the majority of the orangutan island for these 8 to live out their time until they have proven the skills that we can hopefully get them released back to the wild. Right, so this happened a few weeks back. Actually, we did an update to our adopters first, because many people have still adopted this. So it's just a little reminder, if you want to get this information exclusively a little quicker, if you become an adopter, you get access to these videos a little sooner. We actually, like I said, we updated our adopters on this a little while back. So just as a plug. But we put together this video of their release. So without further ado. Sends chills down my spine. And sorry, I did mention I'd be reading the subtitles, and I meant to say that was for these upcoming videos. Those were a little bit easier to read, but the ones coming up of some of our staff talking in Bahasa, in Indonesian, are the ones that I'm referring to. But what we wanted to do, because that video unfortunately was so short, incredible but short, we wanted to give you a little bit more, because everyone wants to kind of get behind the scenes. So we compiled some of the other footage that we put together, that just for you, so that way you can kind of see each of these 3 orangutans journey back. So first we're going to do Cinta's story and her journey back to freedom on the pre-release island.
Harapan saya untuk
I hope that when Cinta is transferred to the
Cinta
island,
apabila dilepas biarkan ke pulau, dia lebih
she can be more adventurous, explorative,
lebih
and
berpetualang
independent.
lagi, lebih suka menjelajah lagi, dan dia akan lebih lebih mandiri lagi lah untuk
So
mengenal
that she can get to know
lingkungan
her new
barunya. Di
environment.
sisi lain memang saya sedih
But it is also a bittersweet moment for
apabila
me
orangutan yang kami
when I
jaga
see
dari
an
kecil
orangutan that I
sampai
used to
besar
care
itu
for
akan
finally
dilepas
be released
biarkan
in a
kembali
forest.
ke habitatnya. Namun
But that is exactly my duty
itulah
as a surrogate
tujuan
mother
kami
for
sebagai ibu
orangutans
asuh
like
atau ibu
Cinta.
pengganti untuk orangutan Cinta ke depannya.
Oh, so incredible. All right, and now here's Jumbo. Jumbo's journey back to freedom.
Kalau dia sudah
When Jumbo is returned to a forest
dikembalikan ke
habitat, I hope he
habitat
can grow
aslinya
more
supaya dia
independent,
bisa mandiri, bisa beradaptasi
be able to
dengan
adjust to his new lush
lingkungannya yang
environment,
baru seperti hutan yang lebat, dia
and
bisa
is able to forage
mencari pakan
independently.
sendiri, tidak tergantung lagi
He will
dengan
need not
makan yang dikasih
dependent
oleh
on the food
manusia.
given by humans anymore.
Ya, harapan
Hope that
saya
someday
dia
Jumbo can
bisa
become a truly wild orangutan.
kembali seperti orang utan liar.
All right, and last but never least, our sweet Valentino.
Perasaan saya
I'm actually very happy,
sangat sekali bahagia ya, sangat bahagia sekali. Kenapa? Karena
as I have been involved with
saya
Valentino's
mengikuti
rehabilitation
progres
journey from
Valentino
the
dari
very
hari
day he
pertama dia
arrived at
datang
our center.
sampai pada hari ini. Di situ ketika saya buka
When I
kandang,
opened the cage,
saya kira
I
Valentino
thought maybe
akan
Valentino would not want to leave
ya
it.
nggak keluar atau apa. Ternyata
was wrong.
enggak, Valentino langsung keluar
Valentino quickly
menjauh,
scrambled out into the
lalu
trees where he
eksplor
foraged for
pohon,
leaves.
lalu cari eksplor daun, manjat pohon tinggi, seperti itu. Jadi
The
saya
behavior
sangat
has given me high hopes
punya
for
harapan sangat
Valentino's
besar karena
future.
Valentino masih muda dan di
Valentino is
situ
still young and
masih
living
ada
on an
membentang.
island. He still has a lot to learn.
Dia masih proses belajar dia itu masih bisa cukup tinggi dan di situ
Learning is the
memang
most
step yang
important
sangat
thing
penting
about
ini
living on the pre-release
pulau
islands,
pelepas liaran. Jadi Valentino
so
bisa
that Valentino can prepare
menjadi
himself to live
orangutan
freely
yang
in the
benar-benar siap
forest.
nanti ketika kita lepas liarkan di hutan.
And that's our update. We are so excited for all 8 of these orangutans. All 8 are absolutely, we're so excited that all 8 are now on this journey back to hopefully showing the skills that they need to go back to the wild. Because that's where they belong. They do not belong with us. They are incredibly wild animals, and we want them to continue to grow the wild population. And as a reminder, we've seen quite a few babies born from the orangutans that we've released as well. So it's incredibly important that we continue this work to get them back. And COVID, unfortunately, has put a hamper on all of this for such a long time. So it's very exciting for us to be able to finally be moving again, so we can get orangutans, because everything, COVID shut everything down for obviously the necessary protection of the orangutans. And we had to do that immediately, but now we're doing wild releases again under very, very strict COVID protocols that we've developed. We're doing these releases out to pre-release islands under very, very strict protocols. And we're rescuing again under very, very strict protocols. So all of this is important because we have got to continue our work to save the orangutan and the rainforest that they call home. And so with that, I'm going to end with our update, but I do want to introduce, if I'm going to check to see, hopefully Jamartin, I know it's late in Indonesia, so let me see if Jamartin's still with us. He is. So I'm going to ask Jamartin if he wouldn't mind. This is Dr. Jamartin Sahiti, who is is the CEO of BOSS Foundation and leads the organization that is doing all of this work in Indonesia, and of course the one that BOSS UK, BOSS Australia, and all of our other partners support, doing the incredible work on the ground. So if you're still with us, Jamartin, go ahead and unmute. There you are. If you want to turn on your video, you're welcome to. I know it's late there. If you just like to do audio, that's fine too. Can you hear me, Jamartin?
Yeah, Ben. I cannot open my video because
That's okay.
not allowed. Okay.
Yep. So let me just do a quick intro. So, Jamartin, I just wanted to well, first, I'm happy for you to talk with our supporters, but a couple things. One, I just wanted to kind of get your personal opinion and take on what this latest release means for you, for the BOSS Foundation, and also kind of giving an update for the status of the COVID pandemic, because I know that here in the UK, we're on Monday, we're starting to release another level of our restrictions, but I know very well that in Indonesia, that's not the case right now. It's still very much a challenge. So give you the floor.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Thank you to everybody. I hope you can hear my voice. Yeah. The last release that we saw in the video that Ben or Bosuke shared, this is the first time after COVID we do the release on the island. But we can guarantee to all of you, everybody who join in that release and the orangutan that we release, all of them free from COVID-19. It's not easy to doing release, even to release orangutan to the pre-release island in this pandemic, because we have to make sure we not send the time bombing to the forest. That's why we have to make sure all orangutan and all the team should be free from the COVID-19. And this year, after 1 year, we have to make a lot of adjustment in our operation. And I hope next month we could do the release of orangutan to the forest after they got some, like Ben said, they go to the pre-release island and do something like in the university, and now they have to practice every lesson learned that they got from the forest school and from the island, now they have to prove it to us in the real forest. And then I hope with all of support that we got from all friends in Australia, UK, US, German, Swiss, and other country, I hope in May, in this month or June, I hope in June, or to make sure that we will bring the orangutan back to forest. But again, we have to make sure everybody and all the orangutan are free from COVID-19. And now the status of COVID-19 in Indonesia, we still in the close to the red zone. Yeah, COVID-19 still become the big problem for us. But thanks God, all of the team already got vaccine. In Nyaru Menteng, in Central Kalimantan, we got the first vaccine. In East Kalimantan, all of that. It means almost 400 more staff already got vaccine. We got support from the government to get the vaccine to us. I think that's the last update, Ben, and to everybody. I hope with all of support from all of you, we could bring all of the orangutan back to forest. And to let you know, Salat Island now we use as a pre-release island, and only small part of that island we use to be the sanctuary for the unreleasable orangutan. In the future, our plan with supporting from all of both UK, both Australia, and others, both partners, we hope we could bring all orangutan living with tree. Even they cannot be released to the real forest, to the jungle, we could bring them in the sanctuary living with tree. That's our dream. Only orangutan with the handicap, like blind orangutan, we not bring them to the island. But we hope we could make more island and more forest to let the orangutan living with tree. I think that's the update from me, Ben. Let's working together
Yes.
to make all orangutan could be going to the forest. Today, this year, I want to share with you, this year, Bosch Foundation will be celebrating 30 years working in this field. And our themes in this year is Together Stronger. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Jamartin. And Jamartin has just proven the fact that anyone that works in Boss Foundation knows that Jamartin never sleeps. He works constantly. He works day and night. We couldn't ask for a better CEO. He just leads this organization in such a powerful way, and his vision that we all share and we all support of getting as many orangutans, really supporting them in the forest and having orangutans in the forest. That's where we need them. We need to rebuild the rainforest. We need to ensure that the orangutans don't ever need rescue from there. But when we do need to step in, like we have to, unfortunately, more often than not, we will do so. But for those orangutans, we want to get as many of those back to the wild as possible. But to Jamartin's point, when unfortunately certain orangutans cannot be released back to the wild, and we really do attempt that for every single orangutan, but when that can't happen, we provide them as close to a natural life as possible on our incredible sanctuary islands, because they deserve trees and they deserve freedom as well. So it's why I'm part of this organization. It's why I'm such an avid supporter of Jamartin and the entire Boss Foundation and the work that they do, because it is truly groundbreaking, and it will be the organization that can solve this problem. It has that capability, and that's why I'm here. So thank you, Jamartin. Sleep well. It's well deserved.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jamartin. And as a reminder, none of this stuff, none of these updates can happen without our supporters, because we are completely run by the generous support of the public and the corporations and the foundations that all have stepped up and believe that orangutans are a species worth saving. And by saving the orangutan, you save that unbelievable amount of biodiversity that they live with in the rainforests of Indonesia. So, so it's only because of you that we're even able to give you this update today. So thank you to every single one of you that support in every way that you do. And that can be on social, sharing our posts, or telling a friend, or through adoption, as I mentioned, through our adoption program, which is so important, or just giving a one-time gift, whatever that is, whatever small part or big part you can play is important, because it does take a village. It takes a unified collective of people to come together to solve such a big problem. And you are part of this family and a part of that solution when you do support us like you are today. So thank you to you all. If you want to get more information, like I said, we've just put this up onto our website, so you can read this story. We'll be putting up the videos shortly. We're going to be adding those to it, so do keep checking back. And on our Journey to Freedom page, you can go to at our website, boss-uk.org. You can look at all the other updates that we've provided for this year. This is literally just from this year, all of the different releases and rescues. So we'll be, and of course, this latest release to pre-release island is on there. So keep an eye out on that. We won't be doing webinars for every single update on there, so it's a great place to go back to, and you can support us right there on the page. You can also, for everyone that is still with us, I see some people have left, but we do have a discount code for you. So that's what you get for sticking around. We have our Boss UK web store. And Australia has wonderful merchandise as well, but for us here in the UK, and we can ship internationally, we have the discount code of release 2021. So if you put that code in at checkout, it will give you 10% off of your purchase. And so we have some lovely elements, like I have my water bottle here, which I use daily, which is incredible. But we have many items on our page that you can go to. So that's another way you can support us. And also lovely for a gift to give to someone else, to let them know that this is important to you, and hopefully they become supporters as well. So with that, I think we can go ahead and wrap up and get you all back to your Saturday evenings. So thank you all for joining. We're very, oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna do a live Q&A. I forgot we were gonna do that. So let's move to that. So if you want to stick around, then we're going to do a live Q&A. I see that we've got no open questions. So you have one of two options. One option is that you can put that into the Q&A, and I will read those now and I can get those answered, or you can use the raise hand feature. And if you put your hand up, then I can, I'll just call on you, and then I can open it up so you can ask your question live to me. So yeah, so we'll go to that. So first question looks like it's coming in from Justin. So let me give you access to talk.
Good afternoon from the UK. Thank you, Ben, very much, and to all your team as well. Fabulous. It's just lovely to watch this. I'm here with my wife as well. It's just, yeah, it's really heartening. My question is around just kind of, I'm very aware that there are other orangutan organizations doing great work as well. Sometimes I think to myself, oh, which is the right one to support? Because many are probably worthy of the support. And obviously there's certain loyalty to BOSS. My thoughts on this are, to what extent do you and other organizations come together for certain activities, or yeah, just sort of, maybe it's about lobbying government and that kind of thing?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are incredible orangutan organizations. And again, we work on the Bornean orangutan, you have the Sumatran orangutan, the Tapanuli. And so we are not the one-stop shop to save every species of orangutan that exists. There's three. So it does take, again, it takes a village, and that village includes the many other organizations, reputable and respectable. And I mean, as I always say, you do want to check into your organizations that you support, and to make sure that they are doing work on the ground, and that money is getting to the work on the ground. That's very important, doing the direct care. But yes, we know all of the reputable ones. We work very closely with all of them. I personally have worked with quite a few of them here in the UK and in the US, that so we want to be able to come together. So when it comes to go, like, as you mentioned, if we're doing a lobbying, if we want to get something passed, if we want to try to push a company to be more responsible in their sourcing practices, then we can come together on the back end. And you may not see it publicly, but we'll come together on the back end to combine our abilities and the force of the work that we do push the correct change. So yes, there are many other organizations out there, and we really do advocate that you support them all. We're all in the same team. It doesn't matter if we have a different logo, a different name, and a different location. We are all in the same team, and we're moving towards the same goal, and that's to save the orangutan long term. So, so we again, we are one. We are the largest of the great ape organizations, and definitely the largest of the orangutan. But that doesn't mean that we're the only one, and so there are many out there. Another way to, like I said, the other way is to look into that organization's operations and make sure you're comfortable with them, because that's the challenge that a lot of people have when they want to support charities. They want to make sure that their donation is going as far as possible. So, all right, thank you, Justin.
Great,
and Heather.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really useful.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so I have a couple questions in the Q&A. Right. Okay, yep. So for Chelsea, what are the best ways to help in addition to donating and sponsoring orangutans? That's a fantastic question. There's many ways. I mean, the list is actually too long to really answer here, but let me give you a few of those. One of the ways is just to if you're on social media, then anything that we're posting out there, sharing that to other people, and so that way other people can find us, because we need our village as big as possible to be able to combat the many issues that orangutans in the rainforest are facing. So it's only because of this community involvement that we're able to make the progress that we are. So social media is a wonderful thing. If you're not on social media, we do have a volunteer program and doing events. You can do, even if you don't want to, like, another way to donate, but not necessarily, you could, like, we have someone, that's a little girl that's doing she's not speaking for an entire day of school, and from talking with her mother, she is very much a chat box. So this is a big deal for her, and she's raised over £400 for us so far, just because she's did this little fundraiser for us. There's, if you buy through Amazon, then you can do Amazon Smiles for us, and a portion of that money, so that's just regular purchases, come to us. There's just a lot of different ways in which you can support us. So, and if you want more ideas, then you can always reach out to us. Our email is on our website, and we can tailor something specific for you if you have an idea. So, thank you, Chelsea. I hope that answered at least a portion of your question. All right, so Suzanne Anderson, is Copperl and Shelton okay? They are more than okay. They are actually both doing really well. Copperl moved to his island, his sanctuary island. For those that don't know Copperl and Shelton, Copperl arrived to us and sadly had lost both of his arms from an electrical accident where he came across high voltage electrical, and it blew his arms, took his arms away from him. So he's lived his life without arms, although he gets around I've met him personally, he gets around wonderfully. But because of that, he can't be released back to the wild. And he became very close friends with Shelton, who came to us blind, or came to us poor sight, and has slowly progressed to be almost completely blind. They have since, as they've kind of grown, which is very common with animals, that they kind of make a bond early on, and then they kind of get a little bit more independent as they get older. So Copperl's moved to his island. Shelton, because of his condition, has actually kind of become more friendly with another orangutan named Leslie, and they hang out a lot. And Shelton is doing very well, but because of his loss of sight, we have to build a very specific facility for him so he can get around, and he knows exactly where everything is. But we are designing a new facility, a larger facility for them. But they're both doing wonderful, to answer your question. Right. Okay. Oh, I'll go to Steve Jones, and you got a raised hand, and I also have a question, so I'll go ahead and let you ask live. I'm sorry, Steve, it's not coming through. You could talk a little louder.
Hello, Ben?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just very faint. If it's the same question you have written, I can just ask it live, if that's okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay, excellent. All right. Okay, so the question from Steve is, what's the life expectancy of a wild orangutan, and how old is the I'm sorry, and how old is the old orangutan you've helped? Oh gosh, this would the second part of that would I would absolutely I can't speak for Boss Foundation because I'm not quite sure I know that. I'd have to talk to one of our care staff that would know this. I don't know if Jamartin is still with us. Jamartin, are you still? There we go. Would you be able to answer these? So the question is what's the life expectancy of a wild orangutan? And then how old is the oldest orangutan you've helped?
In the wild, it could be 40 something, but in the center, some orangutan could be reach 50. In the zoo, maybe 50, 55 years, because a lot of fat could taking care of their health.
Okay, and then what was the oldest orangutan that we've helped?
I don't remember the exact age, but I thought more than, we have one female orangutan old and now become they have a cataract. I think it's more than 40.
Yeah. And the hard part is, I mean, obviously when they come in young, we have a general idea, but we never know exactly their age, especially when they come into us at an older age. It's hard to age them. All right, thank you, Jamartin. I appreciate that, and hopefully, Steve, that answered your question. All right, we have an anonymous. Oh, sorry, we've asked that question. I'll answer that one. All right, question from Joanna. Just moved around on me. Here we go. Do your surrogate mothers have to have any particular qualifications? It must be such rewarding work. Yeah, it's incredibly rewarding work. So our surrogate mothers, to be a good surrogate mother to orangutans in our orangutan forest school program takes a very specific type of demeanor. It's just like not everyone makes a good teacher for children, and I think that's very true for surrogate mothers at our rescue centers. To be able to make sure that you are providing them the education, you have the patience, because these guys, I've seen it firsthand. They just want to play. Honestly, it's very similar to going to a classroom of kids. Honestly, I think it's pretty comparable. And so making sure that they are following their lessons and that you're pushing them, but in a very kind way, to be able to learn these lessons when all they want to do is play in the water and play in the mud and beat up on their other orangutan classmates. It does take, it's hard work. I mean, the differing part of it is that these people are out in the rainforest, and it is hot, it is humid, and of course through the COVID pandemic they've had to add all of the PPE on top of this. So my heart goes out to them, because I don't know how they can do this work every day. I was out there and I didn't have, as before the pandemic, and I didn't have any of the PPE requirements. I had a mask on, but I didn't have the full garb that they're wearing now. And oh my God, I lasted about 20 minutes, and I was already hot. So they're out there every day, all day with these orangutans, and watching them grow up year over year has got to be tough. But yeah, there are special skills. There's not like a certification or a process. It really is, it's that fit. And then our staff will teach new surrogate mothers coming in how to be a good surrogate mother, because they are assigned to an orangutan to give them that one-on-one education through that portion of their skills. But speaking with them, they wouldn't ever go anywhere else. This is the most rewarding work for them, to be able to see them go. And it's tough. I mean, as you imagine, it's just like these become your children, and watching them go off to university and then finally back to the wild is emotional, but you know it's the right thing, but that doesn't make it any easier to see them go. Right, Darren. So Darren asks, at times we come across unethical videos on YouTube, orangutans in cages, etc. I'm sure you guys are always doing your best to save these beautiful creatures, but how could we report such videos? That's a good question. And it's difficult because we see those too, and there's a lot of irresponsible media out there on YouTube and other platforms that are very problematic. And the only way to really combat it, I mean, you can report these things to the platforms, and I've had some success there, but most often than not, it maybe not violating their policies. So because they just don't have the right, I mean, these platforms aren't thinking in the way that we are, that this is irresponsible, but sadly for animal rights and animal welfare issues, some of these issues haven't elevated to the point at which suddenly they're violating these policies. So you can report them, obviously, if it's something that is highly problematic. And it also depends on what country you're in. Like USDA, if you're in the US, then the USDA regulates some of this stuff. So it could be something that you could report up to them or your regulatory body within your country. If you truly believe this is an animal welfare issue that violates the law, you could actually circumvent the platform and just go straight and give someone a link to this, and hopefully they will follow up. But the biggest thing is just to make sure that you're not liking or sharing or following or even sometimes commenting. I mean, as hard as it is, commenting is considered engagement on these platforms. And so a bunch of people commenting, that's why they put these up there, because they know people are going to go against it sometimes. And that just, for these algorithms, it just sends these videos to the moon, and then they're showing up on everyone's platforms. So sometimes ignoring them, most of the time ignoring them, if it's just something that's frustrating, but not breaking the law, is sometimes the best thing. So that way the algorithms just kind of put them to the side. So again, if you ever have one in question, you can send it to us. We can help you in any way. If you're really not sure about one, we can make sure that we point you in the right direction for it, because each one is kind of unique. But that's the best quick advice I can give. All right. Rory asks, with more orangutans graduating jungle school and being released year after year, have you noticed any behaviors unique to jungle school graduates being passed on to wild populations? Oh gosh. I don't know, Martin, if that would be one that you'd want to. I've never heard of anything, because the idea is to obviously give our orangutans skill sets that are purely just based on their wild skills. We don't teach them anything that they wouldn't have experienced in the wild. So we don't teach them things that would be unnatural. But Martin, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
We have one research station in Mawas area in Central Kalimantan, and we make some research how the orangutan mother teach the baby how to living in the forest. And in the forest school, in the jungle forest school, we name it forest school, or in the filming we name it is jungle school. We teach them, the baby orangutan, the juvenile of orangutan, the basic needs for to live in the forest, like climbing the tree, knowing the food in the forest. That's why if you come into the center, it's very rare we give banana to the orangutan, especially in the fruiting season. We try to give the fruit from the forest to the orangutan, and then we teach them to knowing the threats like the snake and others. That's the basic things that we train in the forest school. And after that, after they graduate from that, we give them living in the pre-release island, like we saw in the video. And then after we put them in the pre-release island, we have some criteria to evaluate they are graduate from the forest school and could be living in the forest or not. Based on the criteria we identify from the team who monitor them in the island, we choose the orangutan which one could go to forest. That's the things that I can add, Ben.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. All right, then we do have a question from Oz Vieira. And Oz asks, do you have plans to extend the orangutan facilities, as sadly more orangutans are arriving, and are you planning to purchase more land to facilitate more releases? Yes, yes, and yes. So we are constantly trying to improve every element of our operations, and that includes, I mean, we don't control the amount of orangutans that come to us. We just unfortunately we unfortunately respond when we need to, but we are seeing a decline in the amount of orangutan rescues we need. Now that doesn't mean that we won't see a spike up, because sometimes we have a bad fire season and that can cause a spike for orangutan rescues. But we do hope to see that the rescues from people, as our education programs continue to advance, that people understand these orangutans do not make good pets, that they shouldn't be held in a home, and therefore you have, just like Chinta, Valentino, and Jumbo, living in a human development for too long, and now not being able to, and losing their mother and not being able to go back to the wild. So we hope that's continually to we will continue to improve. But what we do want is we want every orangutan to have as close to a wild existence as possible, if not a completely wild existence. So the goal is to get as many back to the wild as possible. We do release only to protected forests, and we are continually expanding our rainforest protection work. We have right now about 1.1 million acres of land under our management. A big portion of that is being reforested at the moment, that was completely felled for rice plantations. So that's our Mauas conservation area, and that's the pristine area of Mauas that which we now protect supports a wild population of about 2,500 orangutans already. So as we can continue to grow back the other portions with our community development work, we can get that rainforest restored and expand the area for orangutans there. We are always looking to do more. We have our ROI program, which buys farming concessions for land that has been designated as farming land. But it's either going to be pristine or it was prime orangutan habitat that was destroyed. And so we pick up those farming concessions through our ROI program, and that allows us to keep pristine forests pristine or restore degraded forests back to what they need to do. And we want to see a massive upsurge in that work, because that's where we're going to see the wild orangutan populations start to stabilize, when we can stabilize, of course, their homes. So there's no point, I mean, if we're going to save orangutans and we don't focus on the forest, then it's not a complete solution. So we have to deal with both of these to have a complete solution. So and the only way we can expand it again is through our supporters, and that includes all of you. So by you supporting our work, we can save the orangutans, we can rehabilitate them. If they can't be released, we put them onto a sanctuary island, which is a very natural environment for them, as close to natural as we can give them. And then ideally, for those that can go back, we get them back to the wild. Right. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see, Martin. Martin asks, how many surrogate mothers are there, and can we send some gifts to them? Martin, do you know how many surrogate mothers we have at our 2 rescue centers in total?
The surrogate mothers that we have is around 40 to 50 people in 2 center. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the second question is can we send them gifts? I think the best way to do that is, I mean, they don't want them. I've met them. I don't think they want them. They want the organization to. For them, it's all about the orangutan. So by adopting and by donating, you're doing exactly what they want, and that's to make sure that orangutans make it back. So if you want to give a gift, the best way to do that is to adopt. And so that would be my recommendation there, because when you go to Boss Foundation, it's such a close-knit family of people, and they support each other. So so you can support, by supporting the orangutans, you really do support that team. And I don't know, they probably wouldn't accept a personal gift very well. I think they would much prefer it towards the orangutans. All right, answer that. Just making sure I haven't missed any. Okay, and then Chelsea asked again, I've always been curious as to whether or not orangutans can be vaccinated against diseases similar to humans. If a new medication has been developed specifically for them, although their genetic code is similar, I get that you probably don't want to introduce experimental vaccines into the wild orangutan populations for COVID, for example. So it is, so orangutans, as many of you know, share 97% of the identical DNA to humans, and many of the things that we can contract, orangutans can contract, sadly, including COVID, but HIV, tuberculosis, the common cold, the flu, and that's why it's very difficult caring for great apes, because of this easy transmissible diseases. So what we do is to not give them all of these vaccines and all the other stuff, we vaccinate the staff, we protect the staff. So when I go, I did a 5-day quarantine. I had to put myself into quarantine to make sure I didn't bring anything in. So as opposed to them having to go through all of that, we protect them highly by limiting the exposure they have from humans. But there are certain vaccines and there are medications. Most of the medications that are used for orangutans is just basically the same as humans. We never would use anything experimental on them because obviously that's not something we want to put a risk for them. There has been, we've heard of some discussions of a COVID vaccine that's going to be used in animals, because obviously we've seen some cases of it in gorillas, a tiger, and so I think there's some other positive cases, but that is not at this point. So what we've done is to ensure that, because we would never want COVID to get into the wild population, and it's lengthy, and so I won't go over it all now, but we developed a massive protocol and process to ensure that everyone that is in contact with these orangutans up and leading into the rescue and release, or rescue and release, are going through massive, they have the vaccinations, that they are quarantining, that we minimize the amount of contact to them. The orangutans are tested before, and they have to make sure that they're testing negative before they're put to the wild. So with all of that, we have confidence that we are not sending COVID into the wild. And what's sad about COVID is it came from the wild. This is a zoonotic disease that what it looks like is it transferred from most likely a bat or what many believe is a pangolin, and the pangolins share the same rainforest as orangutans. But what happened is that humans were irresponsible, and the wildlife trafficking trade caused this massive pandemic, which is now sadly affecting the orangutans again. So it's very concerning, and we want to see this global shift in the mindset of how we treat and care for the wildlife. We shouldn't be taking animals from the wild and using them for medicinal purposes and for food. We're just asking for it's cruel on one level, which is terrible, and dangerous on another, in which we've seen in this global pandemic. This was completely avoidable, and we saw it coming. We knew that this was a possibility. No one was shocked when this happened, because it's not been a question of if, it's been a question of when, and when finally arrived. Right. Okay, I think I've answered everyone. I don't see any raised hands, so I think we can go ahead and wrap up. And like I said, let you guys get back to your day. Thank you for those that stuck it out and made it to the end here. As a reminder, we do have this discount code for you. If you want to get yourself a t-shirt, a water bottle, whatever, that's another way to support us. You can always donate on our page. You can read more about this update on our website, our Journey to Freedom page on our website at bos-uk.org, and then orangutan.au. Make sure I got that one right. I'm gonna mess up the orangutans.com.au for anyone in Australia. And as a reminder, doesn't matter where you support the BOS Foundation, it does find its way to the ground in Indonesia, where we're doing the work to save them. So we're a global community, but it's a funneling process down to the direct work we're doing. So thank you all. I really appreciate you taking time out of your Saturday to spend it with us. We hope you enjoyed the update. And with that, I will say goodbye.